Hello and namaskar. This is episode number 119 of Daily Global Insights, and I'm with Sridhar Sutyalaji. It's the 16th of March 2021. We have a lot of breaking events for you today. The first one is that India surpasses Russia to become the fourth largest in FX reserves for the country's much needed strategic advantage at $580 billion. The United States moves to number two as the leading supplier of crude, pushing Saudi Arabia to number four position. The White House weighs tax hikes to pay for beyond the 1.9 trillion stimulus package. Taliban is going to be attending the Russian hosted Afghan summit on March 18th, and Wall Street reaches record highs with optimism around the economy reopening from the pandemic. Now, on America news, the White House weighs tax hikes to pay for beyond the 1.9 trillion stimulus package. Sridharji, yesterday we talked about this just a little bit, and you said that they were going to tax corporations, net individuals with high net worth, and so on and so forth. But the numbers don't come up to 1.9 trillion, isn't it? I mean, is there any other hidden tax hike here?
No, I think the $900 billion of last year, the last one that came in December, plus the new $1.9 trillion stimulus that is going out, will not have any tax increases to fund. It is factored into the balance sheet of the government. But there are other programs such as infrastructure, paying for green accord, normalizing some of these benefits that is going in as part of the pandemic into a regular program. People are saying, if that has to be done, then there has to be a mechanism to find revenue sources. So what we are hearing right now is that some of the considered tax scenarios, this is coming from Biden's office or Biden's team, that includes, a tax slab, a tax hike for people earning greater than $400,000 is one. The other thing that is being considered is to increase the corporate taxes from 21% to 28%. Then also to have capital gains limits set at 1 million to have higher capital gains rate for those earning through capital gains at $1 million. So these are some of the numbers that is being floated around. There is also, if you recall, a wealth tax, which is namely for those earning, greater than those who have a household net worth of greater than $500 million up to $1 billion, 1% wealth tax, and those who have a household net worth of greater than 1 billion to have a 2% wealth tax. There's also considered view that corporations which have tax benefits overseas, there may be a flat levy of 10% tax. But these are the additional things. Today, the four line items that are propping up are this $400,000, the $1 million capital gains, the 21 to 28% corporate tax, and potentially looking at the wealth tax. These are the kind of the four specific line items that are coming up as they weigh the next stimulus. As you can see, Nancy Pelosi has been saying, rah, 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 the next is coming. We have to have infrastructure. But there is also this program, besides the infrastructure, to normalize what is being sent as pandemic payments into a normal kind of benefits flowing through to the lower income or lower strata of the society. One specific item that is being considered as a platform is this $250 or $3,000 per year tax credits for those between age 6 and age 17 per child in the family, and the other one being $3,600 or $300 per month for children below 6. These are the considerations.
Now, I'm seeing now for the past few years, sir, few administrations, as a matter of fact, one administration goes left, the other one corrects and goes right. So essentially, the country is coming back to the same point. this tax reduction was seen as a good thing because there is no other way to tackle the tax inversion problem that existed amongst the Fortune 500 companies. Today, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, 99%, I think, are now incorporated outside of the Americas. And so now, if they raise the rates, that's going to stay the same. At least there was an outside chance that they would come back in. What Apple and other companies were trying to do is to see if they could get a one-time rebate of 5% tax on all the money that was sitting abroad, so that they could bring it back into the United States. And well, they did this once before and they did not live up to their promises, which is probably why the government did not do it. The Trump government did not do it. But now, again, I think this is like a resignation on part of Democrats that, no matter what, these people will not, reincorporate back in the United States. We might as well tax them at a higher rate. So this is just my 2 cents, sir. I could be wrong about it. But as an overall strategy where the world is coming to single digit corporate taxation and almost no personal income tax, you take Dubai, for example, any tax percentage of tax is going to be counterproductive because there are other options. And I don't know what is the solution to this. Maybe America should also tax the consumption rather than the income. I don't know. Maybe that's where we will go in the time to go. Any thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, I think that I just want to delineate some of the points that you had made. The amnesty that you're referring to is for bringing back the capital that has been retained overseas.
Right.
It's close to about $3 trillion of capital. So that's a one-off amnesty to bring the cash that is overseas back into the country. So for deployment of capital expansion type of programs, expansion programs that require capital. So that's one part of it. The one that is Biden is focusing on is not the repatriation of the capital, but he wants to do a permanent levy of taxes so that there is a convergence around what you call the gap that we alluded to. If you see that the spending will increase over 10 years or 20 years by almost 5 percentage points, and we had stated that the revenue only increases by 2 percentage points, already with a gap anything between 500 billion to 900 billion dollars in terms of the deficit to even balance the budget on an annual basis. We also saw that in the projections that we gave yesterday, that 14% of the GDP was the deficit, 10.3% without adding new debt was the deficit to GDP. It normalizes to about 5% and then goes up to 8%. Eventually, by the time it gets to 2050, close to 13% of the budget deficit is already fixed, of which 8.6% is nothing but the interest charges on the debt. So they have no mechanism unless they actually start increasing the revenue. And the only pieces of revenue that they can increase are the tax revenues. Effectively, only less than 10% of the revenues comes from the corporate taxes. Vast part of the other comes from individual payroll taxes, and then, of course, the small business, individual taxes, personal taxes, and then you have the small business payroll taxes that flows through. So they have a huge problem in terms of going on spending money without a mechanism of determining where the income is, right? Now you have to understand that we got floodgates open, illegal people, migrants coming in. We already have 9 million unemployed and close to 12 million illegal migrants sitting within the nation. And for the country to roll out all these social welfare programs for these 20, 21, 30 million people, there is no mechanism within the balance sheet in terms of funding it. So this is the fundamental difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Republicans say that any budget that is to fund the nation is for its citizens and must come from their tax income. Whereas the Democrats are saying we are compassionate. Anybody who comes in and all these illegal people have to be harmonized as a one-off. and new people coming in, they need to be looked after, etc., etc. So this is the fundamental difference between the two kind of regimes. The reason why we grew for the past 4 years is because of the tax concessions that was given to the people of the United States, who are the taxpayers, that in turn translated into people going and spending money besides the low energy prices. Remember, we also have a minimum wage going up, and we're going to have this fracking and ban on the energy. So the oil prices are expected to kind of go up. So there's a whole swag of problems that the Democrats are looking at without really adding the numbers. And what you're seeing is the snippet of these tax rises.
Well, they are causing, they're causing trouble to themselves, and I don't know where this is going to end. I think the stock market also is going to smell the coffee, just like the way you and I are smelling it. So we'll see how it goes. Trump's judicial appointees give positive hope to revoke the flood of executive orders with sweeping changes. So Trump had his hand in selecting a lot of people in judiciary posts, especially even in Supreme Court. I believe now it's a conservative majority. And does that mean that some of these things could be rolled back?
Well, there are three tiers. One is the Supreme Court. We had 3 judges. Then you have the next, which is the district courts, where, I mean, pretty close to 400 people were added by him. And then you have the lower district courts, where you had close to another 300 people. So he has added 3 tiers, close to 700 judges in the tier 1 and tier 2 district, as well as the lower courts. And then you have 3 in the Supreme Court. So the belief is that many of these programs seems to be rolled out with no due consultation and all going through the executive orders. They believe it will be challenged in various states. And so the rescue could come in terms of implementing some of these far-reaching programs on immigration, payouts, social welfare programs, funding the green energy, the green costs, minimum wages, ban on, there's, for example, Keystone Pipeline, ban on new drilling and new leases to offshore. So for the energy expansion program. So there's a whole series of activities that he has stopped, and that could be challenged in various courts, which those states, we mentioned this, like Texas and South Dakota, North Dakota, Mississippi. So quite a few of these states could challenge those rulings because they have direct consequence on the revenue. Now, the third point that you made is we do have consumption tax, and that ranges from between 6 to 8%, depending on which state you are. For example, in New York, it's about 8.4% is the consumption tax.
Eliminating filibuster will be on table if Republicans keep voting no, says Chuck Schumer. Non-citizens to register to vote under Democratic bill, conservatives want. This is something that is very alarming, sir.
Well, I think that the filibuster, we talked about it, which is namely at some stage they have to kind of say, okay, we can only do, or we can do 3. If there are 7 bills, for all 7 bills there's filibuster, then they're just going to, it's not constitutional provision. It is an implicit understanding between the two parties. So what you're going to witness is that, these guys, that's why they threw in a whole swag of bills. That's on the filibuster. As far as the non-citizens is concerned, this has been the bone of contention, constant all the time, that, you don't need driver's license. Anybody who gives a basic ID is adequate. Non-citizens can vote, etc. So Democrats clearly see the way to outwit the Republicans in many of the states, and the way it's also, we talked about the redistricting that can occur, because right now, if you recall, there was a dispute between whether these people should be included in census or whether they should not be included in census. Republicans, President Trump said they should not be included in census, and Supreme Court kind of, held the ruling in his favor. Now that is being challenged by the Biden administration, which is to say, no, these people are here, they're part of us, and they should not be disenfranchised. And if you recall, they said anybody, previously people who are, felons, who are guilty of some offense, who are imprisoned, there's a certain categories who are omitted from participating in the elections. So the Biden administration is saying, no, everybody, irrespective of what his denomination is, should be voting for the election. To your point, it is quite worrying.
Situation on the Mexican border worsens as politicians fight over labeling it as a crisis or not. If you label it as a crisis, what happens? What changes happen?
Nancy Pelosi will release the next stimulus bill.
Deb Haaland said to be confirmed as the first Native American cabinet member. Boy, that is surprising because they are the original inhabitants of this country. Let's move on, sir. We have to
Yeah.
cover much ground. India's news. The Ministry of External Affairs informs Rajya Sabha that India has engaged West Asian countries such as the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman to help Indians who have lost their jobs due to pandemic. India invites applicants for second phase on PLI programs for large-scale electronics manufacturing. Indian Railways executes its most challenging project, world's highest rail arch bridge over Chenab in Kashmir. BRO opens road ahead of schedule, allowing induction of troops at Baralacha La Pass at an altitude of 16,043 feet. It is one of the highest mountain passes in Zanskar ranges on Manali Sarchu Road and connects Lahaul district in Himachal Pradesh with Leh in Ladakh. So this means it is the second way to get to Leh?
Yep. And fast movement of the troops.
Yes, yes. It's very
And
impressive, the altitude at which they have pulled it off.
well, I think that the reasons why we continue to highlight many of the things, Shri IRG, is that this is the channel you hear news that you do not hear in the mainstream media. So there's a lot of news that's good things that are happening in India that is continuing to advance the journey of India in various fronts. But most of the media seems to be focused in India, at least around all the nitty-gritties on all the local stuff, which seems to have neither intrinsic economic value or educational value or intellectual value. It seems to be more entertainment around how some of this political football is being kind of played locally. So the objective is here to, when you look at some of the things that we talk about foreign exchange reserves, what its implications. We are talking about the reduction in the imports. We are talking about how the Ministry of External Affairs is working with various governments outside and saying a vast number of Indians who are employed, who are reliant on the livelihood, hey, we have helped you with vaccines and other things. It's now time for you to take some of these people back. Then we are talking about, some of the engineering marvel that is being done in connecting a railway line around the Chenab River at the highest. Actually, we don't have the video, but we should see whether we can secure the video. You can actually see this particular, girder coming up at such a huge altitude. It's the largest kind of what you call the sky girder that is in practice today in the world, or in use in the world, and that's being used to kind of make the bridge. There's another one. I think this may be in Rameshwaram, where you are having the train is going up in the upper tier, and the bridge is being built simultaneously in the lower tier. The objective is to demonstrate India has come a long way in terms of its ability to execute these types of projects. Again, we talked about this, the BRO, which is the
Border Roads Organization. Yeah.
Organization. So these are the guys who are building at the in the Baralacha La Pass, which is connecting Himachal Pradesh to Leh through an alternate route for the faster movement of troops in that kind of an altitude. So it just demonstrates that there's a lot of good things that are going on, in the Indian region around many things around the infrastructure. Also, India has had 17% reduction in imports as a result of this PLI program, where many of the things are coming in as part of made in India or manufactured in India type of programs.
In Asian news, after the Myanmar coup, the Myanmar death toll crosses 120 as several Chinese-owned factories are torched. So somewhere the people seem to think that perhaps the Chinese had something to do with the coup. What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, usually the communist regimes have played a significant part, and they've been very close to junta. If you recall, many of the capital infusion as well as the commercial programs which resulted in setting up of the factories and industries in Myanmar, was a result of the money of the Chinese. So there's a perception, at least in the minds of the people, the Chinese are behind supporting the junta, which is the reason why they have dismissed a democratically elected government. I mean, one of the funny things in this is that the Taiwanese fellows have started to put up a flag to say that we are Taiwanese, not Chinese, so don't burn our factories.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. In
Yeah.
in Europe, Middle East, and Africa news, Iran releases first images and film footage of what it said as the new Revolutionary Guards arms base with cruise and ballistic missiles and electronic warfare equipment. The Taliban will be attending the Russian hosted Afghan meeting that is starting on the 18th of March. And Germany, Italy, France join Haaland in halting of AstraZeneca. And in markets, Wall Street reaches record highs. Where is this going? And this is one of the interesting things about news. People will never talk about how much richer you got because the Wall Street hit new record. But one correction and they'll give a number and say something lost so many trillion in its valuation. This is a very interesting way. But today, a lot of us are richer, aren't we?
Well, yeah, I think that everybody's 401k balances have really kind of gone up. Most of the vast part of the America have a 401k, that is their retirement kind of a program. So people have seen an uptick in the balances. There are two profound changes that has occurred, which generally people don't speak about. One is the second is the low interest rates has helped many of the people to structure their mortgages, and there has been a consistent pattern of growth in the householder ownership. Close to $500 billion of loans was refinanced in $484 billion was refinanced in 2020. So the two points that you are alluding to is the household wealth has increased. And we indicated that as of January, the figures released was the net household wealth was around, I'm talking about, dispensing the billionaires, is around 4 trillion. This is personal household wealth, not billionaires household wealth. It was at $4 trillion. Their income or the income at this income for spend was up 2.4% and was around $2 trillion. There's a staggering numbers when you have money put into your bank accounts, $1,600, $2,000 per household minimum put into the bank account. You have $250 or $300 per person. If you have two kids, $500 or $600 put into your bank account. That adds significant amount when you have 110 million households in this country.
Yes, indeed. And that brings us to a close on today's news. And we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. Thanks for joining. Do subscribe to our channel and please donate to our cause. Once again, namaskar, Sridharji, and we'll be back again tomorrow.
Namaskar, and we'll be back tomorrow, and have a wonderful day.